All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Eichbrett, and I usually would say joined with me is the captain, Mr. Andy Full. But unfortunately, Andy cannot make it tonight. He's with the family this weekend because we were recording at an unusual time for us. It is actually a Sunday night, and you're going to be listening to this either on a Monday or watching, listening, etc. later this week. But we were getting a show out today because, one, it's ICAST week. So Deacon and I are going to be down at ICAST. So if you're going to be there and you listen to the show and you want to say hello and grab a beer, shoot us a DM. We'd love to say hello to you guys. But also because we did a business from the bass boat last week, we kind of have like a little one-off deal. After this episode, everything's going back to regularly scheduled programming. But because of the announcements of the opens and such last week and how that all changed and shook up, we wanted to get a show out quick to kind of get our thoughts before things got too crazy. So we got that show out last week. And then a big shout out to everyone that joined in for episode 300 last Tuesday. That was a heck of a lot of fun. Appreciate everybody that's been supporting the show. We had a lot of really amazing feedback. And 300 was a big party. So appreciate everybody that tuned in for that. But yeah, ICAST week, it's going to be busy as heck. I'm going to go fishing actually with some good friends down in Florida after ICAST this coming weekend. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, hopefully a lot of fun. They told me just to bring a frogging and flipping stick, which sounds right up our guest's alley here today, which we're going to get him on here in a second. So hopefully that's all I need. If I could just take a 1.5 ounce weight and that's all I need for 2 days, that's perfectly fine. But I think without further ado, our guest today is Mr. Keith Poche, who I was very privileged to spend a week up at Lake Champlain with and kind of learn some of his ways. And we're going to dig deeper into Mr. Keith Poche's ways of fishing here. And I think without further ado, let's bring him on here. Mr. Keith Poche, what's going on, dude?
What's up?
Can you hear me okay?
Man, you're like in slow-mo. Like
I'm in slow-mo? I am a little bit slow in the brain, if that means anything. Is it still slow? Uh-oh. You got me?
I can hear you. It's like rah, 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 rah.
Uh-oh. Hold on. How's this? Is this a little bit better?
No.
Oh, gosh.
You sound like a big goblin. Rah, rah, rah,
big
rah,
goblin?
Rah.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay.
I wonder if it's my end.
Yeah, try taking your earbuds off quick and just see if that fixes anything.
I can't understand you.
Oh, gosh.
Hold on.
He's taking his earbuds off. Hopefully the folks can hear me still. Slight technical difficulty, but we'll push through. You're muted now. You're muted. Hold on. There you go. Can you hear me now?
I took it off the ear pods and it's the same thing.
What the heck? All right, hold on.
It's like real slow.
How's this? Is this any better?
No.
Oh my gosh. Hold on. Can you hear me any better?
Same thing.
Oh, God. Still the same, huh?
There, now you're good.
That's it. That's all it took?
That's it. You're good now.
What in the world? Go figure. I literally just removed myself from the stream and added myself back in, but good grief. Keith Poche, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm good. Just been working, hanging out,
Talking to goblins on your phone.
Yeah.
Well, dude, we got to spend a week together up in Champlain, and before Champlain, we actually have like a a little group chat with us on the Serious Angler platform between Deacon, Andy, and I. And we talk about what guys we'd like to get on shows and for different segments. And there's one show we've wanted to try to do because we've done shows on backwater bass fishing, but it's been more like aimed at the kayak folk. Whereas there's certain people that think the stuff that you can get in with a kayak that you can't get in with a boat. And I think you have thoroughly debunked the 99% of that. So that's why I want to get you on here, because after seeing your rig and seeing what you could do with it, I was like, we got to get Keith on to talk about this stuff. But
if we could only get a 90-horse Mercury on the back of that kayak, we would be like, I would be unstoppable.
That's what I'm saying.
That would be like the ultimate boat, because a kayak can get places like I can't get. So you can like pull it over a dry bank, or go through the most shallowest stuff. And I can go pretty shallow. I jump a lot of things, but I go a lot of places. People like, really? You just went in there? I'm like, yeah, it was no big deal.
It's no big deal. Hear a chainsaw going in the back too, and the whole 9 yards. But yeah, put like a little jet motor on the back of a kayak, and you're good.
Yeah.
That's all you need. But dude, before we get too deep into tonight's show, one thing we like to do with all of our new guests, like their first time on the show, is we like to kind of throw it back to see where it all started. Because I think generally a lot of people have the same story in terms of like, dad got them into it, whatever. But I think it's cool to hear each pro's avenue or each angler's avenue on like how they started. Like, how'd you catch your first bass? Who introduced you to it? If there's any story behind it, love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure just like everyone else, it started when I was little. I remember my first bass, and it wasn't a very big one, but it was cool to catch it. And we had some ponds behind my dad's house in Louisiana, and I would typically go with my dad or my uncle or my cousin. And it was just a love of fishing, bass fishing in particular. I didn't care about brim fishing, catfishing. It was just something about a bass that really, got things going for me, and I really, really enjoyed it. But, hey, that was just something to do. It was always just fun to go. I never would have dreamed or even knew about the tournament side of it growing up. I mean, I didn't have a lot back then. We didn't have a big bass boat. We weren't in a position to go fish tournaments and go into these big lakes and rivers and have that opportunity to do that. So it was just always hey, let's go to the pond. Let's go to the little bayou down the road and just, go catch some bass. It was just the fun of it. And I didn't fish my first tournament until I was in college. When I really got introduced to the whole, tournament side of bass fishing. And man, when I got introduced to that, I was like, holy moly, I've been missing out on. I mean, it was just really exciting to have that competition side of catching a fish, doing something I really like to do. And putting it in that competition form was really, really, I was like, whoa, this is something to this. And of course, then I really started studying it and, finding out who all the great anglers were. I didn't know who Kevin Van Dam was. I didn't know all these big names. I just didn't follow it because I played ball. I didn't really care much about fishing as far as that side of it, that aspect. I kind of knew there were tournaments, but I didn't really know what it was all about and how big it was. And so when after I fished that first little tournament, things just really took off from there, and I fell deep in it. I mean, bought a boat, bought all the rod and reels and tackle, and just went head first. And really, I mean, it was a learning curve for me because it wasn't just like going to a pond fishing. You have to go out in these big lakes and understand what the fish actually do, the migration, the patterns, and what they like, what they don't like, certain times of the day or year. I mean, it was just like, whoa. It's like I never fished before in my life because it was so much different than just going to a pond where they're trapped and you just pick up a worm or a topwater bait and go. So, but yeah, and I just started fishing more tournaments and took some chances and, fished the opens for a couple of years and made it my second year. And for the Bassmaster Elite Series back in 2009, and it just happened really, really fast for me. And I don't know, I wasn't ready. I wasn't, in a position really to compete with these guys. But there again, I took some chances. I felt like that, if it was going to happen, I needed to do it now. I was, just in a great position in my life and went for it and got my butt kicked there for a few years and just had to learn the hard way, and eventually, caught some fish and had some great events and, made a couple of classics. And now we moved on to Major League Fishing, and that's been interesting and fun. But it's been a crazy career. I've enjoyed it. There's a lot of things I could have done differently. I'm sure we all, wish we could have made a few different choices. But overall, it's been a lot of fun and just a journey that I really would not want to go through again. I mean, I look back, I'm like, man, if I wouldn't have caught this fish, or if that wouldn't have happened, or this and that. I mean, there's so many things that fall in place for you. And I think you put yourself in that position for it to fall in place. I mean, you create your own luck in a way.
Right.
And that's everybody say, oh, he got lucky, this and that. Well, yeah, sometimes you get a lucky bite here and there, but I put myself in position to get lucky. And that comes from, learning what the fish are doing, having the right bait on, being in the right place, and making that good decision. So, I mean, like I said, we've made a lot of bad, but we've made enough right to get where we are today.
Heck yeah. Yeah, man, that couldn't be better said. I think that can speak for a lot of folks, is putting in the work that way, those right decisions. You have a higher probability of getting a little bit of luck, because you can't guarantee that next stump we're going to go flip's got a 5-pounder on it, but we did enough due diligence to know that. And we're going to get into this in a little bit on how, like, backwater stuff and trying to determine what might hold bigger fish, what might not, all that jazz. We're going to get into it, but really fast. And we don't need to do a deep dive on this. We did a show on it last week. So you talked about, if I have the opportunity now, I need to take a chance. I'm talking about fishing professionally. And that stems back to a point that we had brought up, talking about this Bassmaster Open change where you have to fish all 9 now in order to qualify, or to be eligible, I should say, to qualify for the Elite Series. So you can't fish one division anymore and qualify. Just really fast. I mean, as a guy that, fishes professionally, that's what you do for a living. What's kind of your first take on this, and do you think it makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, they change from year to year. They'll go from different. I mean, qualifications is, I think it was 7 back when I fished. I take top 7 out of each division. So they've made changes throughout the years. But as a whole, as a thinking, my first thought of them making this change now and seeing what I've seen over the years, I think it's a good decision, because you want a guy that's serious. You want a guy that's prepared to go out there and fish 9 events, that's capable of fishing 9 events, putting up that type of money. I don't know what the entry fee and, you have to crunch the numbers to see what it'd take for a guy to go out there and fish. But a guy that has that capability will be a guy that has that capability to move on to the Elite Series, because financially, understanding what he's up against, on the road a lot, but also, that creates that opportunity for a guy that has a job that needs to make money. He still can work. He still can do things and make money, but also go fish those 9 events. Yes, a little more traveling. Yeah, it's going different places and a lot more time away from work. But it kind of weeds out the guys that really ain't prepared, or the guys that quite ain't really serious enough that would go fish 3 events. So guys that are fishing all 9, they have a mission, and that's what they want to do. And I feel like that is a good decision. Of course, I'm fishing all 9, and I like fishing opens. That's just something I've always done well in them, fishing out of the little boat and have fun and catch a lot of fish. So,
heck yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think they've received a little bit of some negative flack for it, but I think over time people are going to see the benefit of that change. I totally agree with you. I think it's what and that's what our main point of that show was, that it's going to force the guys that are financially, mentally, and physically prepared to take on that schedule to fish those. Whereas
and just add to my point, I'm speaking from experience and my own time making it back then. I wasn't quite ready 100% financially or, as my ability. So I wish they had that back then to kind of prepare myself to understand what I was getting myself into. Because, man, like I said, if I had some things go my way, if I didn't have, like, that first year I was fishing from paycheck to paycheck, from tournament to tournament. If I didn't get paid, I didn't make the next deposit. I didn't keep going. So I just fished 3 events. 3 events got me in the Elite Series. And so making that jump financially in more events was just a big shock. So having these guys understand and being prepared and knowing will be a huge advantage for themselves to know what they're getting into.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you look back on the stories of guys saying like, yeah, if it weren't for that one fish, I will probably, I wouldn't have won this check, wouldn't have won that check. And that makes for a great story after, but a very daunting thought going into an event that you have to place at a certain level or have to win in order to keep that dream going. Otherwise, you're going to go bankrupt. I mean, I feel like this is probably more logical, but the flip side of that, of the guy not catching that bass that goes bankrupt, that happens way more often than the guy that does catch the bass that saves his career.
Absolutely. And that's in every sport. You got to think, and people don't think about this, but I played little football growing up. I loved football and I had big dreams, but you take an athlete, basketball, football, whatever, the amount of time, money that they put in there in practice, gear, effort. They devote their whole life, from pee-wee to, JV to varsity to college to not make it to the NFL. You know what I'm saying? Because there's only a cream of the crop that gets drafted. So it's no different. I mean, so many people devote their lives and so much time into this, but not everybody's going to make it. That you just got to accept that. You have to do what you can do, put your best foot forward and make the most of it. And you're either going to get it done or you're not. So, and the good thing about fishing is you can keep trying. As long as you can stand up on a boat and make a cast and you got the money to go do it, you can keep trying. Other sports, folks just have to go on with another job or a career, but that's in every sport. This ain't everybody don't get a trophy. And, you just got to understand that you're not everybody's going to make it. And unfortunately, that's just the rules of what we do.
Right. Yeah. Well, we can put that aside because now we're going to get into what we really wanted to talk about today and talk about, backwater fishing, getting into the thick of the crap, getting past that, and then finding, that juice hole that other people in their boats can't get to. And we're going to dive into a little bit, but my first question is I'm going to assume obviously that location and where you grew up played a big role in why you like to fish this way, but is there any other factors that, draw you to the furthest back of a creek versus a main lake?
That has some to do with it. Growing up, and I'm sure a lot of people, they'd go, they'd walk through the woods or across the pasture and cross the swamp and jump these cypress knees to get to a little slough way back somewhere. But, I don't know. It just kind of happened. It just kind of evolved for me. That's just what I like to do. There's been some times early on in my career that, before I even made it to the Elite Series, there's some times I got back in some places in an aluminum boat and in a fiberglass boat. I'm like, man, I just went through hell to get here, and caught fish. So, it just I had a couple of those scenarios happen, and I just got to thinking more and more, and I started finding more, and I started really focusing on those kind of situations, and I found that it didn't play to where there's a lot of fish. It's hard to find one that you can do well in a multi-day event. What I'm saying, so there's only so many that live in these places. So you either have to have a really, really good one, which are very hard to find, or you have to have multiple. And, a lot of places we go to, there's just not that many that produce as well as you would like. Now, you can go back there and catch, fish regardless, but they may not be the size you want. So they're very, very hard to find. But, just growing up, my style of fishing and kind of dabbling in it when I was first started fishing and having a little success in it and seeing that the potential of what could come out of it. And there was a long time that I didn't do it. Once I did, make it pro, and I'm trying to do what everybody else is doing. I'm trying to, drop shot or throw a swim bait or fish out in the mains, and that works. I have to do that a lot of times, and most times I do that, then go back in somewhere. But I look for that first now. You see what I'm saying? So I always just did what everybody said you should be doing, or the thing that's going on at that time. But now I kind of gravitate toward that more because it puts me in my comfort zone. And when you're confident and you're comfortable in what you're doing, you're going to do a lot better regardless.
Right. And I think what's interesting too, and this is no knock, but when you look at the 5-fish format, obviously size is huge in terms of determining what creek you should go down if it's going to have the right size fish for 5 bites a day, right? Whereas in the BPT format, you don't have to write off the creek that's full of, say, 2.5 pounders. That's still valuable because it can help you get ahead. Whereas you might go to a creek and have 3 5-pound bites, but you can go to the next creek and have 10 2.5s.
Yeah.
Or that, you know what I mean?
But there again, it's still hard because two things about that with MLF doing that. For one, I fish out of that with my big gator tracks, which I'm a little limited on where I can still go because it's the same size as a fiberglass boat. But back to what I was saying, that there's only so many back in these places, and it takes you so long to get in these places, and your time is an essence in MLF because the time you're driving is time that you're getting behind because everybody else is fishing and they're catching them. So the amount of time it takes to get back somewhere like that, and then when you do get there, how many are you really going to catch? Is it something that you can stay all day because you're wasting 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour getting back in there, and you catch 4, 5, 6, 7, then you got to come all the way back out. So it's a little touchy. It's a kind of trial and error. You really have to watch what you do when you're doing on that. Now, a 5-fish limit, I would lean towards that more with a 5-fish limit because, I got all day. All I got to catch is 5, 5 of the right ones, and I'm good. So you just got to play it and see which one, which one I'm fishing. And then how good is it? And, the time it takes to get in there.
Right. So let's kind of break it down from start to finish. So like before you even get to the boat ramp, I mean, are you one that's just going to look on Google Maps, find the first creek that's by the ramp and start trying to go down it? Or are you putting in a little bit more deeper map research into that?
Yeah, Google Earth is a huge asset for me. It's gold. I find so much stuff on there. What I look for exclusively, I look for things that a big boat cannot get into. That is my number one. When I go to research, I'm looking at something that I can only get into with my little boat, or something that's sketchy that I can get into with my big gator tracks. That maybe some trees down, maybe shallow flat, and you run through that.
Bring the chainsaw.
I want to try to look for something, and it's hard until you really go look at it, put your eyes on it in person. But Google Earth will tell you a lot. But finding something that a big boat can't even get into, and I pretty much got it down to a science. I can really look at it, zoom in, and say, "Oh, big boat, get in there." Now I'm not even. I write it off. I don't even fool with it. I only look for certain areas where, and it's got to have the right stuff. You got to look. You go back in history on that Google Earth. You can see if it ever dries up, how deep of water's in there. There's a lot of variables that play on finding these, because some I find, I'm like, man, it looks good. I guarantee I can go in there and catch something. I go back in history, and it was bone dry, 2 years ago. So, and it doesn't, and it's not, and it's so far out from the main lake, it's just not going to, fish are not going to swim in there. They're going to swim in and out. They either live in there or they don't. There's very seldom places where a fish are going to swim in there and then swim out. The place like a James River, for instance, it was so far back up in this creek, and it opened up to a big lake. Those fish live in there. It's got 15 foot of water in there. It's got plenty of water for them to survive year in, year out. They don't ever leave. It's its own system. It's its own lake that is tied, and it's got a super shallow flat in it. And there's no way you get a big boat in there or a wide boat. You have to have a aluminum boat that's narrow to get back in this place. So I went, like, for instance, I went there my first day of practice, and I could barely get in. I actually had to get out of the boat and push to get in there just because I wasn't sure how to run it. And it was unbelievable. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's probably the best place I've ever found off the grid style. I mean, of course, I had a chance to win an event, but those are just so rare. They're far few in between. It's just one of them once in a lifetime places. But I've found some other good stuff similar, but man, that place was just off the chain. So, I wouldn't even went in there. Looking on Google, if I seen that a big boat could get, I wouldn't even win. I wouldn't even waste my time going.
So really fast, you brought up the point of when you look on like the history of Google Earth and one that's dried up certain times of the year. Will those have fish in them, or are those kind of the places you look away from?
Yeah, so it depends on how long back was it dry. And if it still has a little water in it, or it may have a hole, like one hole, deep hole somewhere, and most of it's dry, it just varies. But I tend to stay away from it just because of that. Because when it dries up, there ain't nothing. No, it ain't happening, man. They just you need something that stays full for a very long time. You see what I'm saying? I mean, because these fish are living in there. They're, like I said, they're not coming out. If it was dry, 3 years ago, there's chances very slim for them to have a 4 or 5 pounder there, because if it's back full, I mean, a fish to grow, that it's just a fish ain't gonna replenish itself. The fish ain't gonna grow. It's not gonna have the quality of fish that you're looking for. So that's a big player, and it depends on how far away from. Like, so if you go back in a creek and you got the main lake, and it next down, you got the actual little creek. And if there's a pond like right there close, like right off that creek, that's dried up, that may, because it's so close to the main lake. But if you go way back in this creek, I mean, way in there, a mile or two, and you got a little pond off of that, if it dries up, no, it ain't worth it. Not if it dries up. Nope.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty good to know. Yeah. It's a little nugget for folks.
Yeah. There's a lot of things, because I've hit a lot of dead ends. I can't tell you how many places. And I was doing this for so long. And I don't know who it was, a guy, buddy or something, was like, man, you come way back up in this shit. I'm like, yeah, what do you mean? He's like, this is crazy, man. You ought to put this on TV. It's making, and that's been like years ago.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking. I said, man, that'd be a good idea. I may need to start filming these, just making some shows out of it. But what my point is I've been in a lot of places that don't have no fish.
Right.
Like, I've winched my boat for, I don't know, ever, for like 100 yards through mud flats to get into this pond to be a gar hole. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
so,
gosh.
So I've learned which ones, just by looking on Google, I've learned which ones are more productive than others, and I can kind of weed through the ones that don't.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's got to drive you freaking nuts, though, when you get to the back after working that hard, and you're like,
man, it's
go figure.
Because when you get there, and you don't catch nothing. The first thing you think about, man, I'm gonna have to winch all the way back out of here for nothing.
Yeah.
All that work.
Oh, that's gonna drive you crazy. But so when you find creeks that are producing, in terms of like baits or how you approach that, is it typically pretty straightforward for the rest of the creeks that you find on that body of water, or are all of them kind of pretty unique in their own way?
Yeah, I keep it simple. You gotta understand, these fish typically ain't seen a bait in years or ever. And, I kind of keep it simpler. I like throwing the Berkeley Pit Boss, green pumpkin, black and blue, 3 inch, gotta be 3 inch. I love the 3 inch. It's real small, sleek, skips real well, goes through the cover. I mean, and depending on the watercolor, if it's fairly clear, I'll throw green pumpkin, pretty much always. If it's got a stain, I'll throw black and blue. But a moving bait's good. I mean, spinner bait, vibrate jig. The Berkeley's got the new slobber knocker now. That's a unbelievable bait, man. But anything in a frog, frog. If it's warm, whoo, yeah, man, ain't nothing like watching them big suckers come out.
Oh.
You know, it's the unknown because you get back in these places and you're looking around, and you're like, man, there ought to be a fish right there. And it's like, it's just like, you don't know. And then boom, you make a cast and oh, you know what I'm saying? It's like, whoa, man, this is awesome. So it's just the thrill of the excitement of getting in there, going through hell to get there. And then even if I get one bite, I'm like, oh yeah. It does it for me. So it's a lot of fun, and it's always the unknown. You don't know what you're going to catch, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that being said too, like when you find these places that have fish, I think my first question would be, and actually I want to make a point quick too. When you talked about filming episodes, we're going to talk about the YouTube channel here in a little bit. We'll make sure to plug that because if people have not watched Off the Grid, y'all are missing out. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But when you find these creeks and you get back in there and say, I'm kind of curious in practice, right? And you start fishing, you start getting bites. When do you know when to leave in practice? Are you kind of like a 2-bite guy and get out of there? Or do you kind of like fish until you get a quality bite? Like what's kind of your strategy? Because like I feel like these backwater stuff, and it's going to lead into another question, but obviously your amount of fish is limited.
Yeah. So if it's an off the grid fun, I'm whacking everything. But a tournament, for instance, this is straight up. For instance, the James River, and I'm gonna go back to that one just because it's been recent and it was really good, and it was just a perfect deal. But I got in there, and I'm like, whoa, man, this is awesome. I went down the bank. I can't tell you how many bites I had. I never set the hook one time.
Like just like a dummy or like
one. I pull them up to see, lots of them ain't got a hook, but I had a hook this day, but I pulled on them just to see how you can kind of feel how heavy they are. Just, it's kind of hard, but then sometimes they'll kind of swim up to the top and you can get a good look at them. You can kind of get a feel of them, but I never set the hook one time. I didn't set the hook till the first day of the tournament.
Dang.
So I do not set the hook. Even if I'm like in a, like wide open, like I don't, like in the main lake, I don't like setting the hook. I mean, that's like everybody's, oh man, I caught this, I caught that. I'm on 4-pounders and this and that. And they come in with, 2 fish in the tournament because they caught them all. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you how many. I just smile every time I hear it. I just smile.
Practice
but when somebody asks me what I'm on, I'm like, I don't know, man. I had some bites. I don't know what I'm on, but because I don't know. I'm not. Right. I don't want to set the hook and burn all my fish. And I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make. They try to win practice. Winning practice don't do anything for you.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's definitely one thing to be said, like, especially for the way you fish in terms of not setting the hook. Like if you can get, especially if you could see them, I mean, that's all you need. You don't need to catch one to tell the size. As long as you can see them, and you're good. I mean, at the rate, for how long you've been fishing too, and for what you do, if there's a big one, like, you'll be able to tell.
So, and another thing, I went up to, had an open in Cherokee Lake. I ran as far north as I could. The water was down. I went all the way to this spillway way up there. I mean, it's like an hour and a half run. I had to change a prop. I busted a prop each day. There was one shoal that I had to get over, and I hit going up. There was no way to run it without hitting. And I tried to just coast it and go, but I still hit it. But I went up there, and I had a couple bites, and I didn't really have a whole lot of bites, but I seen a couple swimming because the water was kind of clear, and I seen them. I didn't even catch them. I ran all that way for a couple fish I seen. All right. Now, the first day, the wind blew. I didn't have much time to fish, and I don't know. I just had 12 pounds. 11 had 12 pounds, and I didn't even stay up there long. I don't even know. I just fished terrible that day. But I went back the second day, and I had 18 pounds. I stayed on it all day. But that just goes to show, like I'm just confident in what I'm doing. Like, even if I can just see them with my eyes, like, I don't even want to get a bite. Like, if I can see them, I feel like I can catch them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and that leads me to my next question. So whether it's an open or a BPT event, regardless, it's a multi-day event. And especially, I think I'm more curious for a BPT event because, like, for an open, all you need is 5 a day. Whereas BPT, there might be, depending on the lake, like, you might need 20 fish or more depending on, where you're at. So like on a tournament day, when you go back in these things, is there ever a moment where you're going to like leave after a certain amount, or are you burning that to the ground and hoping to find another one, or trying to have multiple creeks to run throughout the, that you find in practice?
Yeah, it all depends on where you're at in the standings. Like, how safe are you in MLF? Like, am I in the top 10? How far is the spread from 20th? Is it knockout round? Is it qualifying round? It depends on the day, but here's kind of my rule of thumb on something like that. I'm gonna catch them while they biting, because they may not bite the next day. They may move. They may get canceled. You never know what's going to happen. You only guaranteed for that day. I may fall over dead. I may fall over dead that evening. I'm gonna catch them while they biting. Now on a 5 fish, now I may manage them a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? I may try to, you know what I'm saying. But MLF, you catch them.
Rip.
All. I whack them. They coming in the boat.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's good to know. So with that being said, though, too, say it's whether it's practice or in a tournament day, and like say you get like it seems like most professional events, they seem to get like horrible weather. It's almost impossible to ever get nice weather for a whole duration of either a BPT, elite event, open, whatever have you. I think Oneida was like a miracle, like once in a lifetime deal. So like when that happens, I mean, obviously some of this backwater stuff, if it has feeder creeks, it'll muddy up or something like that. When it's not going down in these creeks, what's your first move? Because obviously you got to go back to the main lake, but like what's kind of your first adjustment?
So yeah, I mean, you take Oneida for instance. I mean, the wind did blow the second day a little bit. Now I know you said it was kind of good, but the second day I fished the main lake quite a bit. I mean, I had some bites in the creek. Now, I went somewhere. There was nowhere I went where a big boat couldn't get, if that makes sense. So everywhere I caught fish on Oneida, a boat could have got to. And I fished my style, though. So, for instance, and I had a decent tournament. I finished 4th, got the last check. But I fished 2 creeks. I fished one creek. Well, I started in the main lake both days and caught a couple. I actually caught a big smallmouth the first day. But I went to my comfort zone. I went in the creek, and I went as far as back as I could go. I actually went further in practice where you couldn't get a big boat, but there wasn't no fish there. I went as far as a big boat could go because that's where the fish were. It just got too nice. But anyway, I caught some of my fish in one creek one day, and then I ran all across the lake the second day and fished another creek and caught my fish. But with that said, I fish for that first. I try to make that work typically. But if it doesn't, I mean, I find stuff in the main lake. I mean, I'm fishing all the opens out of that little boat. And there's going to be tournaments like Oneida where I'm not going where other people can't go. It just Kissimmee, first of the year. I fished the main lake. I made a long run. I fished in the main lake. I didn't go way back in somewhere. Had an opportunity to do really, really good, and somebody got on my fish, but that's another story. So, but what I'm saying is I try to make it happen, but it's not a guarantee every time. You know what I'm saying? I have to revert back to the main lake. I mean, I can't catch a fish or 2 in the main lake. I've been known to do it. So I want to get in my comfort zone. I want to make it work. But after a day or 2, I'm looking around. Sometimes I just say, hey, it ain't going to happen. And I just revert back and I do my thing and catch some fish and make the most out of it.
Yeah. Do you vibe well with Florida? I feel like that kind of fits your mold.
Do I what?
Do you like with Florida? When you go to Florida, do you like going to Florida?
Man, I got mixed emotions about that. I don't know. I mean, there's a couple of lakes like you take Harris Chain. I think I've gotten a check there every time I fish there. But you go to Kissimmee, I cannot crack Kissimmee for some reason. I mean, I was in like I was like 15th place after the first day in this past open. And I'm like, finally. And then I show up and I'm in a little boat. I'm going 40 miles an hour, making an hour run. And all of a sudden there's boats on my stuff. I'm like, what's the deal, guys? You know what I'm saying? So and I finished 70th. So so I mean, I don't know. I've done well at Okeechobee, then not. So I mean, Florida gets me. I'm not a big fan because it's just so flat, and I don't know. Everything looks the same.
Right.
I like to go through a ditch, cross a beaver dam, saw this log, and go around to the shallow flat and get back in some deeper water.
Find some visual cover.
It just gets me, man. I don't know, but I've done well on some I haven't.
Yeah. I will say, when I fished Toho, I was with Matt Beatty. He's from Georgia. He's actually a Lake Seminole guide.
Yeah.
He did some Keith Poche type stuff on Toho and took me up a creek and a lot of fun. We jacked the heck out of a bunch of 3-pounders in crystal clear water. I was like, this doesn't feel like Florida right now. It was kind of interesting, but it was also the sketchiest ride I've ever been on. Like, you're in like an inch of water, like stuff you're totally used to. But for me, like being in New York, usually running over 40, 50 feet of water, it was interesting. So that was kind of cool though. But that point aside, with your style of fishing, if you had to say, like, if you could only fish one lake for the rest of your life for the way you fish, like, what is your favorite place to go? Because you know that if you get back into some creek, you're going to jack their face.
I mean, I'd have to say Alabama River. I mean, I got a lot of places I like to go, but here where I live in Alabama River, it's got a little bit of everything. It's got a lot of backwater, places to go back in that's beaver dammed up. You can jump some stuff, and it's got some ponds with some fishing, good fish. I mean, I've caught giants back in some places. Or you can fish the main river. I mean, the main pockets. I mean, it's big largemouth, big spotted bass. It's just fun to fish. It's got a lot of the right stuff. Got a lot of lilies, just lay downs, and you can do whatever you want here. This is one of the few river systems you can catch them deep off some of the drops and the points on the river certain times of the year. So it's really diverse. You can go as shallow as you want. You can go way out deep. So it's really fun to fish here. I wish we would have more events here. I mean, we have an open every once in a while. Had elite here back years ago, but it's just fun to fish, and a lot of opportunity. And there's some creeks that jump in. I mean, you got the Coosa comes from Wetumpka out of Lake Jordan, rocks. I mean, you can run up there. It's kind of sketchy. It's dangerous. And you got the Tallapoosa that runs in. It comes from Lake Martin, super sketchy as well. Real skinny. I run way up there and catch spots. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. And when the water's right and it's clear, kind of clear, and it's just at a good level, I can run up there. It's just, man, we catch the heck out of it. It's just a fun day, fun time to go out and just have a ball.
Heck yeah. Catch some big ones out of there too. Like, what's the biggest one you caught out of there?
So I mean, I've caught some showing up upper 4 spots and some over 5 largemouth. Now I had one fish. I didn't catch it. I shook him off, and I wish I wouldn't have. Well, I didn't shake. He come up behind my frog, and I pulled it away from him. The biggest fish I ever seen on the river, and it was in a pocket way up this creek. And I ain't gonna say where it's at because I may go there again one day. And
were there any coordinates on the show?
Yeah, well, I'll get those for you.
Yeah, right.
But dude, it was the fish was so big. Like I can speculate all day. I mean, the fish was in the water. I mean, I don't know, but I'm saying 7 to 8 pounds. Like I'm serious. Like they've caught 10-pounders like years ago. That's what I mean. There's some rumors I've heard 10-pounders on the river, but I don't know. But it was a giant. It was an absolute giant, and it come out of this mat, and the water's crystal clear, and come up after my frog, and I just yanked. I said, "Holy moly!" But I went back, and I've never seen that fish again. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But that's
one day. That's
the biggest I've seen here.
He's just waiting for that fish to turn 10, then he'll eat again.
Yeah. I know where it's at. Now, he ain't going. He shouldn't go nowhere.
You wouldn't think. Yeah, whatever they are these days. So, dude, coming full circle with the comment earlier about filming shows, but tell the folks a little bit about Off the Grid, how that started, and then where they can obviously find it. Yeah,
absolutely. I've been doing this for a while and doing the crazy stuff I do and in the little boat, and it just kind of happened. You know, if someone mentioned something to I should film it, and I started. And heck, I film most of these all these episodes myself. I got GoPros going. I got a helper, you know, in the boat, kind of helping me film. You know, while I'm out pushing or sawing a log or something, or they get out of the boat while I jump a beaver dam or jump a log. But you can go to, you know, just Keith Poche Off the Grid on YouTube. They're really hard to film. Everybody's been asking about more. I got one coming down the pipe here pretty quick, but they're just so hard to film. Of course, I've been super busy here lately building this house and, you know, fishing tour. But no, you know, not trying to make excuses, but it's just
YouTube's a commitment,
just been
man.
really crazy here. Huh?
So YouTube's a commitment, man. You can tell how it is.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, it is. But people think it ain't no just quick fishing trip. For one, I've got to find a good spot. You know, I've hit a lot of dead ends. Like I'll go out and I'll film and it's just nothing. And I'm like, well, I can't. This ain't gonna work. So, I mean, it's finding the right one. It's a lot of time on Google, a lot of research, and seriously, a lot of people think, well, you know, I don't know anything. I've never been in this place before. So when I'm filming this, everything you see is raw. Like first time ever going in there, like it's just off the hip. And I mean, I do the best I can as far as editing because so finding the right place, and it takes like a day. Like I try to keep it a day because I don't want to get caught at night. Like seriously, there've been times I thought I was going to spend a night back in somewhere that I don't know where I'm at and get toted off by mosquitoes. But so it's like a day journey, and there's a lot of dead ends, and so they're just very tough to film. And but no, there's one coming up pretty soon. But yeah, check it out. Just search Keith Poche Off the Grid. You can find me. Subscribe. I appreciate it. But yeah, definitely more coming. Definitely, I need to do a lot more and keep them up because that's the thing. People want them, and it's just hard to get them, man. It's like a gold nugget. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're trying to find that gold nugget way back somewhere, and they're just hard to get.
Yeah, when you're building that monstrosity behind you too, of a house, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, this is a little shot of my living room. I had all this wood cut. There's some trees on my property that I had milled, some oak trees, but yeah, we're getting pretty close to being done. I'm still doing a few things, trimming some stuff out, and we're supposed to close next week and move in. So pretty excited about it.
Heck yeah, dude. Heck yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Well, buddy, we're gonna start wrapping up here in a second. One thing that we ask everyone that's new to the show is a fun little question at the end, and that is if you could sit down and have a beer and a steak. Well, with you, I think you're a Crown guy. I don't know how much you're a beer guy. I learned that about you already. If you could sit down
and honey buns,
well, I was getting to it. You
ain't nothing like a good honey bun, Bubba. Look, let me tell you something. I got a case of honey buns when I go off the grid. You never look. I don't want to get caught somewhere and not have no snack.
Keith is all about the honey bun. This is what I learned real quick when I was going around the trip and I was asking the different boaters that we had on the trip. I was like, "Hey, you guys need any snacks, or whatever?" Most guys were like, "Nah, we're all good, man. Like boat snacks you got first, they'll work fine." And I asked Keith, like, "You need any boat snacks or anything like that?" He goes, "You got any honey buns?" And he was dead serious. And I've never seen a man love honey buns so much as you, but I respect it. I hope to see honey buns striped on the side, right where it says Fenwick on your boat. To see honey bun, that honey bun sponsorship.
That'd be awesome.
That's right.
Work on that for me.
That's right. Yeah. So here we go. We'll tailor the question for you in terms of if you could sit down and have a drink and a honey bun with 3 different individuals that you've never met before. Okay, so they could either be from the past, 2,000 years ago. It doesn't matter. They could be around now. 3 different individuals to sit down, have a conversation with, pick their brain. They don't have to be fishing. Who would you invite and why?
Yeah. First one, I'd probably have to say my grandpa on my mom's side, Cecil Parker. He passed away before I was real little when he passed away, and He was a good guy, good man, and he loved me. That's just all the stories I've heard. But I'd like to know him. I probably won't ever get the chance unless I see him in heaven. But yeah, that'd probably be number one. My grandpa. I never got to meet. So I mean, of course, I met him, but I don't remember. I was a little bitty.
Right.
And but yeah, definitely a
Awesome.
good guy for sure.
Two more.
You know, number two. You know, I don't know. I may. A lot of people may not like this. I may get some hate over this, but I'm about to say Nick Saban, man. Nick Saban.
Why would you get hate over that?
No, I mean, some people with Roll Tide. I mean, they
maybe some locals, but like
this and that. But I mean, let me tell you something. I love some Nick Saban. You got to respect the guy. The man has got it figured out. He's a smart individual, and I would love to sit down with him and just pick his brain on how does he get those players to play the way they do for him, because you can see it's all about the coaching. For a guy to come in there and win like he's done before Alabama, even and now with Alabama, the guy's got something figured out. Whatever his personality is, the way he talks to people, I'd love to learn it. I mean, I want to know. But
well, I think
cool
if you
guy.
Yeah, dude, if you appreciate sports, I feel like you can appreciate his mentality, and that's something that probably people would be really interested in hearing about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah. So, all right, third and last one.
Third one, I don't know, probably Elon Musk.
I like that.
I guess he's the richest man on the planet. I don't know. I hear that. I mean, there may be somebody else richer. I don't know, but the guy, he's really smart. He's got things figured out, and I don't know. I would just love to talk with him and ask him some questions, and I would feel stupid in his presence probably. I mean, just because of
I think 99% of the planet would.
But I mean, I think he's a cool guy. I really do. I think he's a cool guy. I think he's made some different choices over the last year or two. I don't want to speak of on here. Some choices that I agree with. And I have a lot of respect for him. For someone to get to where he's at, I would like to. I'd like to sit down with him for sure.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that would be actually very intriguing. I heard he's a really cool dude. I heard he's a lot of fun.
I don't know what other people talk about, but that's my picks.
Heck yeah, dude. Yeah, that's pretty on par. We usually like to get I always love the ones where people talk about family. Those are always my favorite. And then we like to get like a sports hero out of guys, especially people that grew up playing sports, just to hear who was their idol growing up type of deal. But that's pretty on par, man. I feel like we've gotten Elon Musk a couple times. I can't remember the last time we've had it though. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But man, what's for the folks listening in? We talked about it briefly offline, but what's coming up for you? What's your next event? What can people look out for on Keith Poche's social? Yeah,
so we got a couple Bass Pro Tour events, MLF events left. First one is Cayuga Lake next month. Then we got Mille Lacs a little bit later on. Then I got 4 more opens throughout. So we're just here right now, working on this house, and then we're gonna get back to fishing whenever the schedule allows.
Heck yeah, dude! I'm looking forward to watching up here. I'm probably gonna come see you because I still gotta get my life vest from you. But
absolutely.
But either way, I want to come see you guys, and because that's home lake for me. So I'm really excited for you guys.
I heard they got some giants here, so I mean I don't know. I'm excited. I'm ready to get there. See what I can do.
Well, they had a measly state record just broken for a smallmouth out of there. So I say there's some pretty big ones, but But one thing, I mean, smallmouth country, man, 100 pounds today, caught by Jay Shakurit. First time there's a century belt for smallmouth. That's pretty wild. Pretty wild. I'm surprised though it took this long for a century belt. I feel like weather is obviously a huge factor there, but I am really intrigued to see And I don't want to talk too much because obviously we don't want to get you in trouble at all. But I'm really intrigued to see what the weights are going to look like at Cayuga. I'm really excited. I'm excited. So that's what I'll leave it at. I'll say this. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's been a good lake. I've been there a couple of times. It's always been a good lake, so I can only imagine it's going to be, pretty
Fun.
good. Pretty good.
You're gonna have a great time.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Well, boss, I don't really have anything to close out with here, but folks, if you guys have not already, whether you're listening or watching, in the show description is all of Keith's social media. Make sure you guys check those out. I will link Off the Grid, his YouTube channel, so you guys can go check those out. Highly, highly recommend you going to watch those. And anything Keith Poche is linked down below, so you guys can go find that. Any closing remarks, Keith?
Man, hey, appreciate you having me on. It's been fun, and look forward to seeing you at Cayuga.
Yeah, buddy. I will see you soon, and I'll bring you some honey buns.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, folks. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on Friday's show.